Hi, within this lecture, we're going to build our own listener. Now, we are actually able to connect our Kali Linux machine and we managed to send data and some commands to the Windows machine. But now, I'm going to do it with my own listener. So I'm going to open my PyCharm, okay? So you have to say pycharm.sh in here and I'm going to write my own listener. Why I am doing this? Because first of all, I want to implement some custom commands, right? In netcat, I can actually call dir, cd and everything. But maybe I want to call something like download, something like upload, okay? And in netcat, I cannot do that. I have to manually create these commands in my own listener. And on the other hand, it's actually very easy to write this listener since most of the codes will be the same as my backdoor. We're gonna use the socket library once more. So that's why we are going to write this listener. So let me create a new project from here since this opened my last project, okay? And I believe we named the previous one my socket, so I'm gonna name this my socket listener, okay? And I'm gonna say this window because I want to close this keylogger that we have written in the past section. So as I said, now we're gonna use the same code, same commands in our listener project as well. We're gonna use the socket library. We're going to exactly write same codes in order to connect from Windows to the Kali Linux. And we're gonna add one simple line, and that is only an option. So I'm going to create a file named mysocketlistener.py, okay? And let me import the socket library once for all since this is already on my Kali Linux. And remember, if it is not, you can always go to your terminal and run pip install socket library, okay? Pip install socket. So I'm going to say import socket, and first line we're going to create our listener object. So it will be my listener, okay? And we're gonna write the exact same thing that we have written before. So socket.socket, okay? We are creating an instance of socket. And if you open a parentheses, it will ask for the family name. Remember, we have used AFINAT before. So we have to say socket.af_inat, and with a comma we will say socket.sockstream. So this is the same thing. But now we have to make sure that we will use this instance more than one time. So there's a way to do that. We have to give it an option. And if you read the documentation, you will see that you can just do it with my listener object by writing set sock options. I'm actually going to write this line, and remember, this is to just use this instance for more than one time. So my listener dot set sock opt, okay? Set socket options, and the first parameter to give that is socket dot sol_socket, and with a comma it asks for an option name. You will have to say socket dot so_reuse address, and we're gonna set that option to be 1. So now we are okay. That is the only difference between here and the previous code that we have used for socket connection. And the third line will be the same again, my listener dot bind, and within this bind we will specify the address and the port in a tuple. So the IP address will be the Kali Linux IP address. I'm not gonna write the Windows one, so 10.02.16, and this is for listening. So I'm writing the Kali Linux IP address one more time. So we have specified the port as 8080 before, so I'm writing that as well. This port, of course, has to be the exact same port that we are listening on. After that, you can just call my listener.listen, and it will start. It will listen for a connection, and you have to say my listener.accept to accept that connection, and in between I'm just adding a line to let us know that this connection has been established. Okay, I'm going to say listening here, and after I accept that connection I will say this is now okay, right? Connection okay, connection done, connection started. Okay, so before I'm listening and after I accept this connection I will say connection okay. So let me taste this. So save this and let me minimize this. Actually, let me go to my Windows machine. Now I can delete this line, right? Because I'm going to do that in my own listener. Well, I don't need to do that. I don't need to say there's a connection going on to my victim machine, right? So now we are ready to test, and I believe we are getting an error here. Oh yeah, it says that you have to give a parameter called backlog. And actually this is optional. It means that after how many connections do you want to stop getting connection, okay? And we don't need that kind of restriction in here because we are opening that connection anyway. So I'm going to say 0 and save all. But I think we have to say that 0, otherwise we'll get an error since this is a required parameter. So let me go to my projects here. Now I see my socket listener. Let me run this. And we got an error, cannot assign requested address. So let me check to see. Yeah, I believe this has to be 10.02.15 rather than 16. I don't know why I did that. So let me save this. So you have to make sure that you got your IP right. So first, I'm listening. Let me run this one more time. Yeah, well, I'm listening right now. And as you can see, it just stops there. And if I run my backdoor from here, let me clear this screen and run my socket one more time and go back to Kali to see if we get this connection. Yeah, as you can see now, we get the connection. Great. So we managed to establish that connection, but we're not even in a state that we can write any commands right now. So we have to make sure that we write basic commands. We have to make sure that we interact with the victim computer. So let me close this and let me actually stop here and do the following in the next lecture.